Welcome back to BombTag Olympics 2018. Today, we're going to see how Group A evolves. In Group A, we've got people like DapperWolf, TheGameBomber, let's just call him Mr. F, and WrathLies. So our first match of Group A will be DapperWolf versus TheGameBomber. DapperWolf, known as one of the best BombTag players. I believe he is the second on the leaderboard, right after Wit. Everyone knows Dapper as the safest, most riskless players on BombTag. Dapper will never take a risk even if his life depends on it, and as a result, he ends up surviving in most of his games. He may not have super cool strategies, he may not be super flashy, but he has what it takes. So as a result, I foresee Dapper having a great time in this tournament, especially against someone like GameBomber, who is seeming to have a little bit of trouble finding the items, specifically the boots, which Dapper does really well as well, stealing the items. Dapper is not fond of having full box clearage, he just wants the win, and thus he does. The GameBomber is the one who qualified from the qualifiers, looking to have an impact on this particular match. Perhaps he's not going to be able to withstand the wrath of Dapper, but maybe he'll be able to pull off at least a win, if nothing else. If not right now, maybe against whoever wins or loses in the next round. Dapper looking to be a bit more aggressive than he usually seems, placing bombs more near, getting to the center faster than he normally does, at least when I normally see him. Perhaps looking to assert some pressure, taking the middle of the map to make sure there's less room or anything. The GameBomber looking to place down bombs in a line, hoping to catch Dapper stuck between some bombs. That doesn't seem to be very effective though. Dapper going through some boxes on my screen. Dapper playing very kickless right now. Normally he tends to kick a lot more. I guess he's a bit more confident in his non-kicking plays right now. He only does a couple of kicks every now and then. GameBomber wants to get out of the corner. Dapper looking to close in, and the GameBomber having an unfortunate slide at the end there, succumbing to DapperWolf's greatness. Now we're moving on to the next round. Our next match will be between Rath and Mr. F, let's call him. Mr. F is a very super aggressive player. He tends to be very aggressive super early on, and he really loves to put on his pressure very early on in the game. I don't foresee Rath having the greatest time versus him. In fact, I haven't seen Rath play at all, so it will be interesting to see how Rath is gonna go about this. Mr. F is already in Rath's space, so to say. Mr. F looking to close in on Mr. Rath, like over there. Kicking his bombs as usual. Trying to exert so much pressure that Rath wouldn't be able to handle it. Both players, however, very much alive still. Rath looking to get some items to finish up his full collection of items that he wants to have in order to do battle against Mr. F. And Mr. F ended up sliding through his own bombs. Now the problem with Mr. F is that he ends up killing himself most of the time whenever he does play. So if you just outlast his playstyle, he will eventually get tired out and make a bad move. So Mr. F's style is not foolproof in any means. However, when he does pull off some great moves, he looks absolutely unbeatable. If you consider unbeatable as something that you really don't want to face up against ever. It's definitely not unbeatable. Mr. F having some troubles getting some boots, destroying a boot in the process, as he continues to gain more bombs instead of boots that he really needs. But he has now got his full collection of items he really needs. Rath appears to not have the full potential of macro or item gathering that he really wants to have. Mr. F is now exerting some pressure to see if he can force a mistake out of Rath. Rath taking it very safely. And Rath ends up winning against Mr. F. Now that is something that I did not foresee coming. It does make sense though. Mr. F does in fact end up killing himself most of the time. So now we will move on to the winner's match. And now for our winner's match between Rath and Dapper. Rath very surprisingly defeating Mr. F in his own game. Mr. F does tend to kill himself in game a lot, and Rath's strategy was in fact to go ahead and outlast Mr. F for as long as possible, and it ended up working out amazingly well. However, surviving against Dapper is going to be something completely different, because Mr. Dapper, he does not die. He makes no mistakes, but he can be outplayed. So we'll see how well Rath is going to do up against Dapper. The engagement has started. An easy kill for Dapper, didn't seem to take it though, as they continue to have a match. Rath getting some items, perhaps not maxed out yet, or just couldn't resist. Rath, the most safe person, kicks a bomb, has 2 bombs on the map, and ends up taking out Rath just like that. Rath unfortunately sliding into a flame that he perhaps didn't mean to slide into. But that's usually what ends up happening versus Dap. Will he start a comeback now, or will Dapper seal the deal and move on with a 4-0 victory? If Rath does not make it out of here alive, he does have another chance. And if he does face Mr. F in the final match, he will most likely still have a great time versus him. Rath seems to have Mr. F's strategy down very well. Dapper seems to be much more refined when it comes to item grinding. Mr. Rath though, not very far behind, looking to get some boots to finish off his full set of items. Mr. Dap being very careful, not placing down any unfortunate bombs or any unwanted bombs. Both players not willing to risk a crazy strategy. Both players looking to take it very safely now, as Rath manages to escape against Dapper's little lockdown, but Rath ends up getting himself stuck between a flame and a box, and ends up being taken out. Which means Dapper is now advancing towards the quarterfinals, as Rath is moving towards the final match to get another chance against whoever is going to win in Mr. F versus the GameBomber. Alright, it appears that the GameBomber has failed to show up, so we are skipping that and allowing Mr. F to advance from it and face off against Rath. So Mr. F has now a second chance to go ahead and try to beat Rath, who he didn't appear to do very well against earlier. Let's see if Rath can keep the wins as he tries to go ahead and survive all of Mr. F's wrath, so to say. I am really interested to see this, and Mr. F seems to have had an accident. Alright, we're back. Rath had a bit of a lag problem, so he rejoined. We will now have another match. We will not count that one where Mr. F died, but if he does die like that again, then it will count. Everyone gets one chance. If they die before they get to the opponent, it won't be counted. But if they die again without getting to the opponent, then it will be counted. That's a rule I made up on the spot because I didn't imagine people would actually die like that. But apparently there are people that will die like that, and it will unfortunately be happening a lot of the time, so I guess that's a thing we'll have to take into account next time. So as Mr. F tries to go ahead and get some boost to go ahead and take unnecessary risks, as he normally does, placing down bombs in places where they don't belong. Mr. F really looking to assert some of that pressure, but Rath countering it pretty easily, just running away, making sure Mr. F does not hit any sort of stride with any sort of bomb placement. It worked for him. It worked for him last time. Let's see if it happens again. As Rath continues to run away from every single one of Mr. F's attacks, and as Mr. F tries to desperately find a way to reach Mr. Rath in order to give him a little bit of a fighting chance, Bach calling Rath out. He does not like the playstyle of Rath. He really wants Rath to go ahead and engage, but Rath does not allow Mr. F to engage. But Mr. F does, in fact, take Rath out. Alright, so it's a 1-0 for Mr. F. My Lord John, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. I guess, yes. You can watch, but okay. There we go. He knows how to watch. So I guess this guy will be joining our little expedition of how this match is going to go. As Mr. F continues to make his way over to Rath's base very quickly, as Mr. F is really looking to get that item collection going. Rath is looking to go ahead and pull off another one of those I'm going to out-survive anything you do strats. Let's see if Mr. F is able to go ahead and have that not be the case, as Rath continuously survives everything that Mr. F does. Mr. F really liking his strategy where he places lines of bombs and kicking them a lot, but it ends up not working out and he ends up killing himself in the process. Yes, this is in fact the match point, Rath. The winner of this will move on to the quarterfinals, and the loser of this will unfortunately not be moving on. If Rath moves on, that may be a little bit easier for some other people who don't tend to die as much as Mr. F does. But if Mr. F moves on, that may be very troublesome because people may not be as good at surviving as well as Rath is looking to be surviving in the matches that he's having. As both people are now getting all the items they need, Mr. F probably looking to assert some pressure onto Rath's side of the map, as he is now getting the rest of his items he needs. As F fails to kick a bomb, he's trying to look for another approach to see if he can pull off some games. As Rath is continuously avoiding every bomb, as we're having a little bit of a scuffle with some lag issues, and as Rath, with a clutch maneuver with a dodge in the top left corner, and as both people die, we will have another one of those games where we will go on for another game to see if one person is able to move on to the quarterfinals. Draws happen. The winner takes it all. The loser will go out. Let's see if one of them is able to go ahead and not pull off another one of those draw moves. While draw is very good for not losing, a draw is not very great if you're aiming to win, which is what this tournament is all about. As Fog plays around with his bombs, showing off, and as he seems to not have very good bomb luck, as he only has 2 bombs right now, looking to get some more, and by 2 bombs I mean 3 bombs, as he got 2 drops, I believe. But Rath does in fact end up surviving. Rath moves on to the quarterfinals, and Mr. F will unfortunately drop out of the group stage. And that is the end of Group A. DapperWolf was able to get out of the group unscathed. The GameBomber unfortunately ended up leaving before the match was done, and Rath was able to overcome the wrath of Mr. F. Dapper and Rath will be advancing to the round of 8.